I knew I was in trouble when Mason looked at me from my own couch and said, "Can you pretend I'm taking you out?" I laughed because that was the only safe reaction. Laughing made it sound normal. Laughing made it sound like my chest hadn't tightened so fast I almost forgot how to breathe. "You want me to what?" Mason held up both hands, like he already knew how stupid it sounded. He had shown up at my apartment on a Thursday night with 2 iced coffees, his hair still damp from the rain, and that nervous half-smile he only got when he was trying not to admit something mattered. "Don't make it weird. You walked into my apartment and asked me to fake date you." "Practice date," he corrected, dropping onto the couch like he lived there. Which, honestly, he kind of did at this point. Different thing. I stood near the kitchen counter, holding the coffee he brought me. Less ice. Oat milk. 1 pump of vanilla. The exact order I pretended he didn't have memorized. "For who?" Mason looked down at the cup in his hands. Just for a second. "Connor." There it was. A name. A real one. My stomach sank in a way that felt embarrassing, even alone inside my own body. "Connor from the app?" "Yeah." He scratched the back of his neck. "We're going out tomorrow night." "That's good." My voice sounded normal. I was weirdly proud of that. "Is it?" His eyes flicked back up to mine. "Because I'm pretty sure I'm going to ruin it." I rolled my eyes and finally walked over, sitting on the opposite end of the couch. Safe distance. Friendly distance. The distance I had been practicing for months. "You've been on dates before, Mason." "Bad ones." "Everybody has bad dates." "No, Ethan. I mean, I make them bad." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, coffee hanging between his hands. For once, he wasn't smiling. I either talk too much, or I make jokes when things get serious, or I forget how to act like a normal person when someone actually likes me. That caught me off guard. Mason Reed was the kind of guy people liked immediately. He could walk into a coffee shop and somehow become friends with the barista before his drink was ready. He made strangers laugh in elevators. He got invited to parties by people he barely knew. And somehow he was sitting in my apartment acting like he needed coaching from me. So what am I supposed to do? I tried to keep it light. Teach you how to not be annoying? That got a small smile out of him. Basically. Wow. Big job. I know. That's why I came to my most emotionally stable friend. I snorted. That is deeply concerning. Mason smiled a little wider, but then it faded again. He looked at me in that way he did sometimes, like he was about to say something honest and hated himself for it. "I'm serious. You're good at this stuff." "At dating?" "At noticing things." The room went a little quiet after that. Outside, a car passed through the wet street, tires hissing against the pavement. I looked down at my coffee because eye contact suddenly felt like a bad idea. Noticing things was exactly the problem. I noticed how Mason always took the corner of my couch closest to me. I noticed how he texted me pictures of random dogs because he knew I'd smile. I noticed how he said my name softer when we were alone. And I noticed, very clearly, that he was going on a date with someone else. "Mason," I said carefully, "why don't you just be yourself?" He leaned back, staring at the ceiling. "Because myself keeps getting second dates canceled. Maybe they were just the wrong people." He turned his head toward me. "Then help me figure out the right way to act." I should have said no. A normal person would have said no. A smarter person would have made some joke, changed the subject, sent him home with his coffee and a YouTube video called How to Flirt Without Being a Disaster. Instead, I heard myself say, "Fine. What do you want to practice first?" Mason's face changed so fast it almost hurt to look at. Relief, surprise, something warmer underneath. "Really? Don't look that excited. I'm doing charity work. You're a good man, Ethan Miller. I'm putting that on my tax return." He laughed, and for a second things felt normal again. Just us. Just Mason on my couch, kicking one sneaker against the coffee table, making my apartment feel less empty without even trying. Then he shifted closer. Not much. Just enough that I noticed. Of course I noticed. "Okay," he said, rubbing his palms on his jeans. "So pretend this is the date." My throat went dry. "Right now?" "Yeah." "Mason, I'm wearing sweatpants." His eyes dropped for half a second, then came back up. "You look fine." It was probably nothing. That was what I told myself immediately. He meant comfortable. Normal. Friend fine. Not the kind of fine that made heat climb up my neck. I cleared my throat. "Okay. Start over. You pick me up, or we meet there." "Meet there," he said. "Less pressure." "Good. You sit down. What's the first thing you say?" Mason turned slightly toward me, giving me his full attention in a way that felt unfair. His knee angled toward mine. His coffee sat forgotten on the table. I'd probably say he paused, thinking, "Hey, I'm really glad you came." I stared at him. It was such a simple line, almost boring. But he said it quietly, like he meant it. Like I had actually just walked into some restaurant, and he had been waiting for me. My chest tightened again, slower this time. Worse. Was that bad? His eyebrows pulled together. I blinked and forced a shrug. No, that was good. Yeah. Just don't stare like you're trying to solve a murder. He laughed under his breath, but he didn't look away. I wasn't. Another pause. Too long. Too quiet. Then Mason leaned back just enough to break it, dragging one hand through his hair. Okay, your turn. My turn. Yeah. If this was a real date, what would you want me to say first? I should have had an answer ready. Something useful. Something friendly. Something that didn't feel like opening a door I had spent months holding shut. But Mason was watching me, waiting. And all I could think was that if this were real, I wouldn't want him to say anything clever. I'd just want him to look at me like he wasn't practicing for someone else. I swallowed. I don't know. His voice softened. Come on. Help me out. I looked at him, then away. Maybe just act like you're actually happy to be there. Mason didn't answer right away. When I glanced back, his expression had changed. Not teasing anymore. Not nervous either. Just focused. On me. I can do that, he said. And the worst part was, for 1 second, I believed him. The thing about Mason was that he made normal things feel personal. That was the part one hated most. Not hated him. Never him. Just the way he could remember something tiny about me and drop it into a conversation like it meant nothing, while I stood there trying not to let it ruin my whole night. You are overthinking, he told me, pointing at my face. I blinked. I did not say anything. You get this look. He leaned back against my couch, one arm stretched along the cushions behind me. Not touching. Close enough that I noticed anyway. Like your brain is filing a complaint. Maybe my brain does not want to be part of your fake date training program. Practice date training program, he corrected again. Very professional. Very serious. I gave him a look. You asked me how to smile at another guy without looking like you are apologizing to a dentist. Mason laughed, loud and easy, and the sound hit that same annoying spot in my chest. I looked down at my coffee before my face did something stupid. This was not new. Mason making me laugh. Mason taking up space in my apartment. Mason acting like there was nothing strange about showing up on a rainy Thursday night and asking me to pretend to be the person he wanted across from him. We had been like this for almost 2 years. Too comfortable. Too casual. Too close in ways I never knew how to explain without sounding dramatic. We met through our friend group at a birthday dinner downtown. I barely talked that night. Mason talked enough for both of us. Somehow, by the end of it, he knew I worked at a bookstore, hated cilantro, and always left parties early unless someone gave me a reason to stay. A week later, he texted me a photo of a taco truck sign that said, "No cilantro, no problem," and wrote, "Your people are waiting." That was Mason. Dumb. Sweet. Impossible to ignore. After that, he just kept appearing. Group movie nights. Coffee runs. Saturday errands that started as, "I need to buy one thing," and turned into 3 hours at Target arguing over candles neither of us planned to buy. Somewhere along the way, he became the person I texted when something good happened, then when something bad happened, then when nothing happened at all. And somewhere even more dangerous, I started waiting for his name to show up on my phone. I told myself it was friendship. I got very good at that. Mason shifted beside me, pulling me back to the room. Okay, next question. There are levels now. Obviously. He picked up one of the throw pillows and held it in his lap, like a shield. What do I do if there is an awkward silence? You survive it like an adult. Unhelpful. Do not fill every silence with a joke. His mouth opened, probably to make a joke, then closed again. Progress. I nodded. Exactly like that. He narrowed his eyes. You like bossing me around. You asked for help. Yeah, but you are enjoying it. I'm enjoying being right. Different thing. Mason smiled, but it went softer at the edges. He looked down at the pillow, thumb dragging along the seam. You do that, you know. Do what? Act like everything is a joke when it gets close to something real. My stomach tightened. That was unfair. Mostly because it was true. Pretty sure that is your thing. Maybe. He glanced up. Maybe I learned it from you. The room went still in that quiet way I never trusted. My apartment was not silent. The refrigerator hummed. Rain tapped lightly against the window. Some car alarm chirped once outside and stopped. But between us, everything held its breath. I forced a small laugh. Wow. Therapy and dating practice. You are really getting your money's worth. Mason did not laugh right away. He just kept looking at me, like he was trying to decide whether to let me dodge it. Then his knee bumped mine. Barely. Accidental, probably. Except he did not move it back. Neither did I, Ethan. My name sounded different in his mouth when he was not joking. Lower. Careful. I hated how fast my body reacted to it. Yeah. He looked down between us, at the tiny space where our knees touched, then back at my face. If you were on a date with someone, and they got quiet like this, what would you want them to do? My throat went dry. There it was again. The practice excuse. The safe little frame around a moment that did not feel safe at all. I do not know. You do. I swallowed and looked away first. Coward. Maybe not make it a big deal. Mason nodded slowly, like he was saving the answer somewhere. Okay. Then he reached toward the coffee table for his drink, and his fingers brushed mine. It was nothing. Less than a second. A stupid accidental touch. But his hand paused. Mine did too. For one ridiculous moment. We both stared at our fingers like they had done something without permission. Then Mason cleared his throat and picked up his cup. Sorry. You are fine. Too quick. Too obvious. Heat climbed up my neck. I reached for my own coffee just to have something to do, but Mason was still watching me. Not in a teasing way. Not like he was about to make some dumb comment and save us both. He looked confused. Almost. Like the silence had answered something he was not ready to ask. Then his phone buzzed on the table, bright and rude. Connor's name flashed across the screen. Mason looked at it. I looked at it. Just like that, the couch felt wider. I leaned back, putting space between our knees. You should probably get that, I said. Mason did not pick it up right away. His eyes stayed on me for one extra second. Yeah, he murmured. Probably. And I told myself the disappointment on his face was just nerves about tomorrow. It had to be. Connor's name kept glowing on Mason's phone like it had personally come there to ruin my apartment. Mason stared at it for another second, then finally picked it up. Hey. His voice changed. Not fake exactly. Just careful. I stood too fast. I'm going to grab water. Mason's eyes flicked to me, but I was already walking to the kitchen like a person who had not just almost forgotten how hands worked. The apartment was small, so it was not like I could disappear. I opened the cabinet, took out a glass, put it back, took out a different glass for no reason. Behind me, Mason gave a quiet laugh into the phone. Yeah, tomorrow is still good. My fingers tightened around the edge of the counter. Normal sentence. Completely normal. Nothing illegal about a guy confirming a date with someone he actually wanted to date. That was the whole point of tonight. I was helping him. I was being supportive. I was being mature. I was also kind of dying, but that felt less relevant. No, I am not busy, Mason said, then paused. I am at Ethan's. My whole body went still. I did not turn around. There was another pause, longer this time. Mason's voice dropped slightly. He is helping me practice. Something about the way he said my name made my chest pull tight again. Like he was explaining me, but not all the way. Like there was a part of the answer he kept back. I filled the glass with water and drank half of it, even though I was not thirsty. When I came back, Mason had ended the call. His phone sat face down on the coffee table now. He looked up at me from the couch, expression hard to read. Everything okay? I kept my voice casual. Too casual. Yeah. Cool. I sat down again, but this time I picked the chair instead of the couch. Safe. Across the room. Very normal for two adult friends who had not just been sitting close enough to hear each other breathe. Mason noticed immediately. Of course he did. Why are you over there? I took another sip of water. Better angle. I can judge you more professionally. That sounds fake. You are here for fake dating practice. Practice dating, he corrected, but the joke landed weird. Too soft. Too tired. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, watching me like I was the assignment now. Did the call bother you? My laugh came out quick. Bad sign. Why would it bother me? Mason did not answer right away. He just looked at me. That was worse than if he had pushed. It got quiet. You were on the phone. You got quiet before that. I looked down at my glass. Water moved against the rim because my hand was not as steady as I wanted. I'm just trying to help you stay focused. On Connor. Yeah. His jaw shifted a little. Right. Another silence. I hated it. I hated that we were suddenly talking like every word had another word hiding under it. Mason stood and walked toward the kitchen. For half a second, I thought he was leaving. Instead, he opened my junk drawer. The third one. The one with batteries, rubber bands, takeout menus, and the stupid bottle opener he bought me because I never had one when he came over with root beer. He found what he wanted without asking. Then he grabbed a napkin from beside the sink and came back. Your hand. I blinked. What? He nodded toward my glass. You chipped the edge. I looked down. He was right. A tiny crack near the rim had caught the side of my thumb. Not bad. Barely anything. I had not even noticed. Mason crouched in front of the chair, reaching for my hand. It is fine. Let me see. Mason, it is nothing. Ethan. One word. Quiet. Firm. My mouth shut before I could stop it. He took my hand carefully, turning it palm up. His fingers were warm. Mine were cold. I knew because the second he touched me, my brain became stupidly aware of the difference. There was the smallest red line near my thumb. Not even worth talking about. Mason still frowned like I had done something reckless. You always do that. Bleed dramatically from invisible injuries. Ignore things that hurt. I stopped breathing for a second. He dabbed the napkin against my thumb, gentle enough that it made no sense. His head was bent over my hand, rain-dark hair falling slightly across his forehead. This was too much. The couch had been bad. The knee touching had been bad. But this was worse because there was no joke around it. No performance. No Connor. Just Mason holding my hand like it mattered. You do not have to do that, I managed. His thumb rested against my wrist. Not moving. I know. Then he looked up. He was close now. Not wildly close. Not movie close. Just close enough that I could see the tiny freckle near his left eye. Close enough that the room forgot to make noise. I tried to smile. Is this part of the date practice too? Mason did not laugh. That was the problem. I needed him to laugh. I needed him to roll his eyes and call me dramatic and turn the whole thing back into something I could survive. Instead, his gaze dropped to our hands, then back to my face. I do not know anymore. My chest tightened so hard it almost hurt. Mason. His phone buzzed again on the table behind him. Neither of us moved. Not at first. Then he let go of my hand slowly, like he had to make himself do it. The air came back wrong. I looked down at the napkin around my thumb and told myself it meant nothing. A friend can notice a cut. A friend can hold your hand. A friend can look at you like that and still go on a date with someone else tomorrow. I kept repeating it until Mason stood up and reached for his phone. But this time, when he saw Connor's name, he did not answer. He just turned the screen face down again and looked at me like the call had interrupted the wrong thing. Mason did not leave after that. That would have made sense. He should have grabbed his jacket, blamed the time, said he needed sleep before his date, and walked out before either of us made things worse. Instead, he stayed in the middle of my living room with his phone face down on the table and that look on his face like he had just heard something he could not unhear. I held the napkin around my thumb, even though the tiny cut had already stopped bleeding. You should probably call him back. Mason looked at the phone, then at me. Do you want me to? My mouth opened. Nothing came out. That question was way too simple and way too dangerous. It is not about what I want. That is not what I asked. My pulse kicked hard against my throat. I tried to laugh it off. It came out weak. Mason, you have a date tomorrow. You were supposed to be practicing, remember? Yeah. He rubbed both hands over his face, then dropped onto the couch again. I remember. I stayed in the chair because moving closer felt like admitting something. The distance between us looked stupid now. Too obvious. Like a line drawn on the floor. Mason noticed that too. He patted the couch beside him once. Come here. Why? Because this feels like a job interview. Maybe you need one. Your dating resume is concerning. He almost smiled. Almost. Ethan. There it was again. My name without the joke attached. I should have stayed where I was. I really should have. But he looked tired and nervous and too honest for someone who usually hid behind dumb comments and perfect timing. So I got up and sat on the couch. Not too close. Not far enough. Mason turned toward me, one leg folded under him. Okay. New scenario. I gave him a look. We are still doing this. Humor me. Fine. He took a breath. End of the date. It went well. Maybe too well. There is that weird moment outside where neither person knows what to do. My stomach tightened because I already knew where this was going. You say goodnight. That is boring. Good dates can end boring. Not if you like them. His eyes held mine. I hated how quiet my apartment got around that sentence. Then you ask if you can see them again. And if they say yes, then you leave before you ruin it. Mason huffed a small laugh, but his gaze dropped to my mouth for half a second. So quick I could have imagined it. Except my whole body reacted before my brain could excuse it. What if you do not want to leave? His voice was lower now. Careful, like he was stepping closer to a cliff and asking me to describe the drop. I looked away first. Then you are probably moving too fast. Am I? I did not answer. Mason shifted closer. Just a few inches. His knee brushed mine again, but this time neither of us could pretend it was an accident. Ethan, do not. The word slipped out before I could stop it. Mason froze. His face changed immediately. Do not what? I stared at my hands. The napkin was still twisted around my thumb. Ridiculous. Do not make this feel like something, and then go meet Connor tomorrow. Silence. There it was. Not a confession. Not exactly, but close enough that my chest went cold the second it left my mouth. Mason did not move. For a second, I thought I had ruined everything. Then he leaned forward, elbows on his knees, staring at the floor like he needed it to explain him. I'm trying to figure out why that bothers me so much. My breath caught. What? He looked at me then. Really looked. You saying Connor's name like that. Like what? Like you were trying to hand me off. My heart pounded so hard it felt embarrassing. I am your friend. That is what friends do. Is that what this feels like to you? The question hit too fast. Too straight. I looked at him, ready to say yes. Ready to lie because lying had gotten me this far. But Mason was close, and the lamp beside the couch made his face look softer, and his hand was resting on the cushion between us like he wanted to reach for me, but did not know if he was allowed. I do not know, I admitted. Barely loud enough. Mason's hand moved first. Slow. Careful. He touched the edge of the napkin around my thumb, then slid his fingers under mine. Not grabbing. Just there. Waiting. My throat went dry. I looked down at our hands. Is this still practice? His thumb brushed once over my knuckle. I do not know. The same answer as before. Worse this time. Better this time. He leaned in a little, not enough to cross anything. Just enough that the air between us changed. I could hear his breathing. Could feel my own getting stupid and uneven. His eyes dropped again, then came back up like he was asking a question he could not say out loud. For 1 second, I thought he might actually do it. I thought I might let him. Then someone knocked hard on my apartment door. 3 fast hits. We both jerked back like we had been caught doing something wrong. Mason pulled his hand away. I stood too quickly, almost knocking my knee into the coffee table. Ethan. It was Riley from across the hall, voice muffled through the door. Your car lights are on. I closed my eyes for half a second. Of course. Of course the universe had timing. Thanks. I called back, trying not to sound like my soul had just left my body. Footsteps faded down the hallway. Neither of us moved. Mason stared at the door. I stared at the floor. The room felt colder without his hand around mine. Then his phone buzzed again. This time he picked it up. Not to answer. Just to look. Connor. Mason swallowed, screen glowing against his face. I should go. The words landed between us like something breaking quietly. I nodded because I did not trust my voice. He grabbed his jacket from the chair, but at the door, he stopped. His hand rested on the knob. For what it is worth, he murmured, not turning all the way around. I was not thinking about tomorrow just now. Then he left, and I stood there with my car keys in my hand, wondering how a practice date had started feeling more real than anything I had ever had. By Friday morning, I had convinced myself that the almost hand-holding thing was not a big deal. That sounded stupid, even in my own head, but I committed to it. Mason was nervous. I was tired. The apartment was quiet. People say things at night they would never say under fluorescent lighting with a bagel in their hand. So when our group chat exploded around 10, I welcomed the distraction like an idiot. Riley sent the first message. Diner before Mason becomes a changed man tonight. Then Ava added, we need to bless the date. I almost threw my phone across the bookstore counter. I had forgotten Mason told them. Or maybe I had hoped the whole Connor thing would disappear if nobody mentioned it before sunset. No such luck. By noon, I was sitting in a booth at Marcy's Diner with Mason across from me, Riley beside him, Ava beside me, and the smell of fries and burnt coffee everywhere. Mason looked normal. That was the worst part. Gray hoodie, tired eyes, easy smile, like he had not stood in my doorway the night before and said he was not thinking about tomorrow. So, Riley started, leaning both elbows on the table. How was date boot camp? I nearly choked on my water. Mason glanced at me first. Not at Riley. At me. Useful. Ava grinned. Ethan taught you how to flirt? That is hilarious. Why is that hilarious? I tried to sound offended. Because you flirt like someone apologizing to a librarian. Mason laughed into his coffee, and I hated how much I liked making him do that, even accidentally. Riley pointed a fry between us. Honestly, Ethan would be a better date for you anyway. The table went loud for half a second. Ava laughed. Riley looked proud of himself. I forced a smile because that was what you did when people got too close to the truth. You made it a joke before it made you bleed. Yeah, sure, I muttered. Mason would be lucky. I expected Mason to play along. He always played along. He should have put a hand over his heart and said something dumb like, "Finally, someone understands my value." Instead, he got quiet. Just for a second. But Riley noticed. Ava noticed. I definitely noticed. Mason stirred his coffee even though he had not put sugar in it. "I would be," he said. My chest tightened. Nobody laughed that time. Riley's eyebrows lifted like he had just walked into the wrong room. Ava looked from Mason to me, then slowly picked up a fry and pretended to study it like it was suddenly fascinating. I looked out the window. Anywhere but at him. Anyway, Riley recovered, too loudly. "Connor, tell us about him. Is he cute? Normal? Does he have a job? Low bar, but important." Mason leaned back, shoulders shifting like he was trying to settle into himself again. "He is nice." "Nice is what you say about a neighbor who waters plants," Ava said. "That is not a date review. I have not gone yet." "But you talked." Mason shrugged. "He seems good." Seems good. I should have felt relieved that Mason did not sound excited. Instead, I felt worse. Because now I did not know what I wanted. If he liked Connor, it would hurt. If he did not, I would hope. And hope was the more dangerous one. Ava turned to me with a look that made my stomach drop. She knew me too well. "Ethan, you helped him practice. What is the verdict?" Mason's eyes found mine again. The booth suddenly felt too small. "He will be fine," I answered. "Connor will like him." Mason's jaw tightened. "Barely. That is not what she asked." Riley made a low noise. "Okay. Weird energy." "There is no weird energy." My voice came out too fast. Ava's mouth twitched. "Sure." Mason pushed a fry around his plate. "Ethan thinks I should ask Connor about his work. Listen more, not make jokes when I panic, and leave before I ruin it." "That last one sounds personal," Ava murmured. I shot her a look. She smiled into her milkshake like she had done nothing wrong. Mason did not smile. His knee bumped mine under the table. This time, there was nowhere to move. Riley was beside him. Ava was beside me. The booth trapped us there, knee against knee, while everyone talked over us like the world had not narrowed to one stupid point of contact. Mason looked down, then back at me. He did not move away. My pulse started doing that embarrassing thing again. I reached for my water, just to break whatever was happening, but Ava leaned closer and lowered her voice. "Hey, are you okay?" I nodded. "Yeah." She did not believe me. Of course she did not. After lunch, Mason and I ended up outside alone while Riley argued with Ava about who stole whose fries. The sidewalk was cold, the sky flat and gray, traffic hissing by in front of us. Mason shoved his hands into his hoodie pocket. "You got quiet in there." I was eating. "Ethan." I looked at the street. "Do you want me to say good luck?" "Because I can say it." He turned toward me. "Do you mean it?" That hit harder than it should have. I wanted to lie. It would have been easier. Cleaner. Instead, I watched a city bus roll past and felt my throat tighten. "I want you to be happy." Mason was silent for a moment. Then he laughed once, but there was no humor in it. "That is such a safe answer." "It is the true one." "Is it the whole one?" I finally looked at him. Big mistake. He looked nervous again. Not Connor nervous. Not date nervous. Me nervous. "Mason, do not do this right before you go out with him." His face softened, like I had confirmed something by trying not to. Behind us, the diner door opened. Riley and Ava came out mid-argument, voices bright and normal. Mason stepped back before they could notice how close we were standing. The space between us came back fast. Too fast. "I will text you after," he said, quieter. I nodded. "You do not have to." Mason's eyes stayed on mine. "I know." Then Riley threw an arm around his shoulders and started giving terrible dating advice, and Mason let himself get pulled away. But before he turned the corner, he looked back at me once. Just once. And I hated that it felt less like goodbye and more like a question I was too scared to answer. That night, I tried not to wait for Mason's text. I failed immediately. I put my phone face down on the coffee table, then picked it up 5 minutes later. I opened a book, read the same paragraph 3 times, and realized I had no idea what any of the words meant. Around 9, Ava texted me. Any update from Romeo? I stared at the message for way too long before typing back, he is not Romeo. Her reply came fast. Sure. And you were super normal. I tossed my phone onto the couch beside me like it had betrayed me personally. The apartment felt too quiet without Mason in it. That annoyed me. He did not live here. He was not part of the furniture. He was not allowed to make my place feel emptier just by being somewhere else with someone else. At 9:47, my phone buzzed. Mason. Not a text. A call. My heart did something stupid before I even answered. Hey. There was noise behind him. Street sounds. A car passing. Wind against the microphone. Hey, he breathed out. Just that. Not drunk. Not excited. Not date night happy. Everything okay? A pause. Yeah. That sounded convincing. He gave a small laugh, but it disappeared fast. Can I come over? I sat up. Right now? If you are home. I am. Okay. The call ended before I could ask anything else. For the next 12 minutes, I cleaned things that did not need cleaning. I moved a mug from the table to the sink, then from the sink into the dishwasher. Then I stood in the middle of the room and hated myself for acting like a teenage girl in a sitcom. When the knock came, my chest tightened so fast I had to breathe before opening the door. Mason stood there in his dark jacket, hair messy from the wind, one hand shoved in his pocket. He looked at me like he had rehearsed something the whole way over and lost it the second he saw my face. That bad? I tried to make it light. He stepped inside, and I closed the door behind him. No. Connor was fine. Of course he was. Fine. Nice. Good. All the worst words. Mason walked to the couch, but did not sit. He just stood near it, looking at the spot where we had almost done something we both pretended not to name. He was actually really easy to talk to. I nodded slowly. That is good. Mason looked at me. Stop doing that. Doing what? Being supportive like it does not cost you anything. My throat went tight. Mason. No. I need to say this before I talk myself out of it. He rubbed his hands over his face, then dropped them at his sides. The whole time I was there, I kept comparing everything to last night. I could hear my heartbeat. That was all. Comparing how? The way he laughed. The way the conversation felt. The way I was supposed to be interested. He swallowed, eyes flicking away for a second. And I was sitting across from this perfectly good guy thinking about you telling me to leave before I ruin it. I did not move. I did not trust myself to. That does not mean anything. First dates are weird. It meant something to me. The room went quiet. My hands were suddenly cold. Mason took one step closer, then stopped himself, like he did not want to crowd me. That almost made it worse. I kept waiting to feel the way I felt here. His voice got lower. With you. I looked down because looking at him made the room tilt. You were practicing. I know. For him. I know. Then maybe you just got in your head. Mason let out a breath that was almost a laugh, except it sounded frustrated. Ethan, I wanted to leave 10 minutes into dinner. My eyes snapped back to his. What? Not because Connor did anything wrong. He did not. He was kind. He asked good questions. He even liked the same dumb horror movies I do. Mason's mouth twitched, but it did not last. But when he asked if I wanted to grab coffee after, I thought about how you would have made fun of me for ordering something too sweet. I hated how much that hurt and helped at the same time. That is not a reason to leave a date. No, but this is. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a folded napkin. For a second, I did not understand. Then I saw my handwriting. The stupid practice notes from last night. A short list I had scribbled while pretending to be useful. Ask follow-up questions. Do not panic joke. Actually listen. Good night does not have to be a performance. My chest tightened. You kept that. Mason looked embarrassed for the first time. Really embarrassed. Yeah. Why? His eyes lifted to mine. Because you wrote it. That hit me so hard I forgot to breathe. No joke followed. No smirk. No easy escape. Just Mason standing in my living room holding a diner napkin like it had explained something to him. I shook my head once barely. You cannot say things like that. I know. No, you do not. My voice cracked enough that I hated it. You cannot come here after a date and make me feel like maybe I was not crazy for feeling all of this. Mason's face changed. Softer. Scared. You were not crazy. The words landed slowly. I stared at him. Mason, I was not joking last night. He stepped closer, careful again. When I said I was not thinking about tomorrow, my body went still. He looked down at the space between us, then back at me. I do not think I know how to go back to normal after this. The honest part of me wanted to say I did not either. The scared part wanted to laugh, push him toward the door, tell him to sleep on it, and call me in the morning when he remembered he liked easier things. Instead, I stood there, heart pounding, while Mason unfolded the napkin once more like he needed something to do with his hands. "Ask me the last question again," he murmured. My throat went dry. "What question?" He looked right at me. "The one from practice." I knew exactly which one. End of the date. Outside. Weird silence. Neither person knowing what to do. My voice came out barely above a whisper. "Do you want to see him again?" Mason did not look away. "No, my chest hurt." "Then what do you want?" He was quiet for 1 second. 2. Then he said, "I want to stop pretending this was ever about him." I should have said something right away. Anything. I should have told Mason I wanted that too, because I did. God, I did. The words were right there, sitting behind my teeth, terrifying and ready. But then Mason looked at me with that folded napkin in his hand, and all I could think about was how much there was to lose. Not some dramatic fantasy version of loss. Real loss. Tuesday coffee runs. Bad movie nights. Mason letting himself into my apartment with takeout and no warning. His name at the top of my texts. The couch that somehow felt like ours even though I paid the rent. All of it could disappear if we stepped wrong. So instead of saying the one honest thing, I stepped back. Just a little. Mason saw it. Of course he saw it. His face went still. "Ethan," I rubbed the side of my thumb, right where the tiny cut had been the night before. "I think you are overwhelmed." The sentence sounded awful the second it came out. Mason blinked like I had pushed him without touching him. "Overwhelmed. You just came from a date. A date I left because I wanted to see you." "That is exactly what I mean." My voice was too calm. Fake calm. The kind you use when everything inside you is running in opposite directions. You had one weird night here, and then one weird dinner with someone else, and now you are saying things that change everything. Mason looked down at the napkin, then slowly put it on the coffee table like it had become embarrassing to hold. "I am not confused. Maybe not right now." His jaw tightened. "Do not do that." "Do what?" "Make me sound like I do not know my own feelings just because you are scared of yours." That landed hard. Too hard. I looked away first because if I kept looking at him, I was going to either admit everything or ask him to leave. Both felt dangerous. "I am scared because this is us," I said quietly. "This is not some random guy from an app where you can decide it did not work and never see him again. If this goes bad, I still have to see you at Riley's birthday. I still have to pretend I am fine when Ava asks why you stopped coming over. I still have to sit in this apartment and remember where you used to leave your stupid coffee cups." Mason's expression softened, but that somehow made it worse. "Ethan." "No, I am serious." I let out a shaky breath and hated that he heard it. "You are my friend. My best friend, basically. And I know that is not a romantic thing to say, but it matters to me. You matter to me. So I cannot just jump because tonight feels big." The room went quiet again, but this time it was not the soft kind. It was the kind with sharp edges. Mason nodded once, slow. "Okay." My stomach dropped. "Okay. Yeah." He reached for his jacket. "I hear you." The panic came fast and stupid. I had been the one telling him to slow down. I had been the one pushing him back. But the second he moved toward the door, it felt wrong. "Mason, wait." He stopped with his hand on the jacket, but he did not turn around right away. "I am not mad." That almost hurt more. "You sound mad." "I am not." He turned then, and his eyes looked tired. Not angry, just hurt in a way he was trying to hide because Mason always tried to make discomfort easier for everyone else. "I just do not want to stand here and convince you I mean something I already said." My throat tightened. "That is not what I am asking." Kind of feels like it. I had no good answer. The worst part was that he was not wrong. I wanted proof. I wanted certainty. I wanted him to hand me a future where nothing got awkward and nobody got hurt, and we somehow became something more without risking what we already were. That was not fair. Mason zipped his jacket halfway, then stopped. His fingers hovered near the zipper like he had forgotten what he was doing. "When Connor asked me if there was someone else," he said, voice low, I said no. I looked up. He gave a small, humorless laugh. Not because there was not. Because I panicked. The air left my lungs. "He asked you that?" Mason nodded. "Apparently, I am not subtle when I spend half a date looking at the door." What did he say? He was nice about it. Annoyingly nice. Mason looked at the floor. Told me I should probably figure out who I wanted to call before I tried dating anyone. I almost smiled, but it got stuck. Smart guy. Yeah. Mason's mouth twitched for half a second. Then the quiet came back. He reached for the doorknob. I should go before I make this worse. My body moved before my brain approved. I stepped closer, not enough to stop him, just enough that he noticed. You did not make it worse. Mason looked at me over his shoulder. Did I make it better? I could not lie. Not to that. Not with him looking at me like he already knew the answer and was giving me one last chance to say it out loud. I do not know yet. His face fell just a little. Barely. But I saw it. Right. He opened the door. The hallway light spilled into the room, too bright and cold. For what it is worth, he murmured. I am scared too. That froze me. Mason swallowed, eyes not quite meeting mine. Not of wanting this. Of wanting it, and finding out you only wanted the version where you never had to say it back. Then he left. No slammed door. No dramatic ending. Just a quiet click that somehow felt worse. I stood there staring at the empty space where he had been, and for the first time all night, I stopped asking whether Mason was confused. The awful truth was simpler than that. He had been brave. I had been the one hiding. The next morning, I woke up to no text from Mason. That should not have surprised me. I had practically handed him silence and asked him to respect it. Still, I stared at my phone like it owed me something. No missed calls. No stupid dog photo. No coffee order reminder. Nothing. By noon, the quiet got unbearable. I told myself I was going to give him space. Then I put on shoes and walked 6 blocks to the graphic design studio where he worked, which was apparently what giving space looked like when you were a coward with decent sneakers. Mason was outside on the front steps, sitting with a paper coffee cup between his hands, like he had been waiting. Or maybe I just wanted that to be true. He looked up when my shadow crossed the sidewalk. For a second, neither of us said anything. He looked tired. I probably did too. Hey, I managed. Mason nodded once. Hey. That was it. 2 years of knowing each other, and we were down to one-word greetings like strangers waiting for a bus. I shoved my hands into my jacket pockets. Can we talk? His mouth twitched. Not a smile. Are we not talking right now? Mason. He looked away first, toward the street. A delivery truck rumbled past, loud enough to fill the silence for a few seconds. When it was gone, he stood and tossed his untouched coffee into the trash. Okay. We walked around the corner to a small courtyard behind the building. A few metal tables, empty planters, cigarette butts near the wall. Not romantic. Good. I did not trust romantic right now. Mason leaned against the brick wall, arms folded, leaving a few feet between us. The distance felt intentional. Fair. I deserved it. I am sorry, I started. His eyes moved back to me. Careful. For what part? My chest tightened. All of it, kind of. Ethan. No, I know. That is vague. I blew out a breath. I got scared last night. Mason did not soften right away. He watched me like he was trying not to reach for an easier version of the conversation. I know. Not because I do not feel it. His arms loosened slightly. There. A tiny shift. Then why did you make me feel like I had imagined it? That hurt because it was fair. I looked down at my hands. Because if you imagined it, then I did not have to admit I had been feeling it for months. Mason went still. The whole courtyard seemed to shrink around that sentence. I forced myself to look at him. I liked you before last night. His face changed. Barely. His lips parted, but no words came out. So I kept going before I lost my nerve. Not in a cute, maybe kind of way. I mean, I have been pretending you were just my friend while memorizing your coffee order and waiting for your texts and getting mad at dates I had no right to care about. Mason's eyes dropped for a second, then came back up. Softer now. Hurt still there, but listening. Why did you never say anything? I let out a small laugh with no humor in it. Because you were Mason. That explains nothing. It explains everything. I stepped closer, then stopped before I pushed too hard. You are easy with people. You joke. You touch everyone's shoulder. You make everyone feel like they matter. I thought I was just another person who got stupid about it. Mason looked down, jaw working like he was holding back several things at once. You were not. 2 words. Quiet. Enough to make my heart trip. I wanted to believe that. My voice lowered. But wanting it felt dangerous. He unfolded his arms slowly. And now, I swallowed. Now it still feels dangerous. Mason's face flickered. I stepped in before he could pull away again. But I do not want to use that as an excuse anymore. The silence after that was different. Not easy. Not fixed. Just honest. Mason rubbed his thumb over the side of his coffee-stained sleeve, a nervous habit I had never noticed before and suddenly hated myself for missing. When you stepped back last night, he said, I felt stupid. You were not. I felt like I had shown up with all this messy truth, and you were already building a door between us. My throat tightened. I was. He nodded once, like that answer mattered more, because I did not dress it up. Why come here then? I looked at him. Really looked. Because I heard what you said before you left. Mason's gaze held mine. Which part? The part where you said I only wanted the version where I never had to say it back. My hands were shaking a little in my pockets, so I took them out. No hiding. Not this time. You were right. His expression cracked just slightly. Ethan, I wanted you to choose me without me having to risk choosing you. The words came out rough, but real. That was not fair. Mason looked at the ground for a long second. Then he pushed off the wall. One step closer. Still space between us, but less now. So what are you saying? There it was. No more practice. No more Connor. No more hiding behind advice and jokes and safe answers. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my wrists. I am saying I want this. Mason barely breathed. I kept going. I do not know exactly what this is yet. I do not know how to do it perfectly. I am probably going to panic again because that is apparently my brand. That got the smallest smile out of him. It almost broke me. But I want it with you. Not as practice. Not as a joke. Not because you had a bad date. Mason's eyes were on mine now, steady and bright in a way that made the whole morning feel too sharp. Say the last part again. My voice almost failed. I want it with you. He looked down at my hand, then back at my face. Can I? Such a small question. It hit harder than any confession could have. I nodded. Mason reached for my hand slowly, like he was giving me every chance to change my mind. I did not. His fingers slid between mine, warm and careful. No performance. No audience. Just us in an ugly courtyard behind his office, holding hands like it was the scariest normal thing in the world. Mason let out a breath that sounded like he had been holding it since my apartment. For the record, he murmured, thumb brushing once over my knuckle. I did not want to go back to normal either. I squeezed his hand. Just a little. Enough to answer. And for once, neither of us pretended not to notice. The first thing Mason did after we held hands was laugh. Not loud. Not because anything was funny. Just one shaky breath of a laugh that sounded like relief, leaving his body all at once. Sorry, he muttered, looking down at our hands. I am not laughing at you. Good, I said. Because this is a very serious courtyard moment. His smile broke through then, small and tired and real. Extremely serious. We stood there for another few seconds, hands still together, neither of us rushing to name it. That was the thing I liked most. Mason did not ask what we were right away. I did not ask what happened next. For once, we let a moment be enough without turning it into a test. Then his phone buzzed. We both looked down. Riley's name lit up the screen. Mason groaned. He has called me 6 times. That feels medically concerning. He thinks I got kidnapped by my own feelings. I almost laughed. Did you? Mason looked at me, thumb still resting against my knuckle. A little. My chest warmed in a way I was not used to. Not the painful kind. Not the kind that made me want to hide. This was softer. Scarier, maybe, but softer. He answered the call without letting go of my hand. I am alive. Riley's voice came through loud enough for me to hear. Are you emotionally alive, though? Mason closed his eyes. Please do not be like this. Too late. Ava says Ethan disappeared from work early, and you have been weird since dinner. Are you two finally dealing with whatever that was? Or do we need to schedule an intervention? Mason looked at me. I looked back. There was the old instinct. Deny. Joke. Step away before anyone saw too much. But his hand stayed in mine. Mine stayed in his. Mason's mouth softened. We are talking. Riley went silent for one whole second. Oh my God. Do not make it a thing. It has been a thing for months, man. Mason winced. I stared at him. Months. Riley heard me and immediately got worse. Ethan? Buddy? Great. Wonderful. Please know everyone has been suffering. Mason pulled the phone slightly away from his ear, face red now. I am hanging up. Bring him to dinner tonight. Goodbye, Riley. He ended the call while Riley was still yelling something about emotional accountability. For a second, we just stood there. Then Mason glanced at me like he was worried the call had scared me off. You do not have to come. I knew what he meant. Dinner. Friends. The part where whatever this was stopped being hidden inside my apartment, behind coffee cups and almost confessions. My fear came back, but it did not take over this time. It just stood there quietly, waiting to see what I would do. I squeezed his hand. I know. Mason's eyes dropped to our hands. Okay. But I want to. His face changed so fast it made my throat tight. Like he had been bracing for the safer answer. Like he had expected me to need more time, more distance, more doors. Maybe I did need time, but not to decide if he mattered. That part had been decided long before I was brave enough to admit it. That evening, we showed up at Marcy's diner together. Not dramatically. No grand entrance. Just Mason holding the door open for me like he had done 100 times before, except this time his hand found mine before we stepped inside. I almost pulled away out of habit. Almost. Then Mason's fingers tightened gently, not forcing, just asking. I stayed. Ava saw us first. Her eyes dropped to our hands, then lifted to my face. She did not squeal. She did not make a scene. She just smiled in a way that made me feel seen without feeling exposed. Finally, she said, sliding over in the booth. Riley looked up from his fries and pointed at us like a sports referee. I knew it. You know nothing, Mason told him, sitting beside me. I know tension when it ruins brunch. I hid my face behind the menu, but I was smiling. Mason's knee pressed against mine under the table. This time, it was not an accident. This time, he did not move away. Neither did I. Dinner was mostly normal, which somehow made it better. Riley talked too much. Ava stole fries from everyone's plate. Mason ordered the too sweet coffee milkshake I would have made fun of him for, and when I did, he looked at me like he had been waiting all day for that exact comment. Nothing huge happened. No speech. No perfect movie ending. Just the same booth, the same terrible jokes, the same people, with one difference I could feel in every quiet second. I was not pretending anymore. Later, Mason walked me home. The city was cold, the sidewalks damp, the kind of night where headlights stretched across the pavement and everything looked softer than it was. Outside my building, he stopped with his hands in his jacket pockets, suddenly shy in a way that made me ache. So, he murmured, do I need more practice? I looked at him for a second. The old answer would have been a joke. Something safe. Something that let both of us run if we needed to. But I was tired of safe answers. I stepped closer and took his hand. No, Mason's eyes searched mine. No. I shook my head. I think you figured out who you wanted to ask. His smile was small at first. Then it grew. And if I want to ask again? My heart still pounded. I do not think that part ever fully stops when something matters. But this time, I did not mistake fear for a warning. Then ask. Mason looked down at our hands, then back at me. Can I see you tomorrow? Such a simple question. Somehow, it felt bigger than anything else he could have said. I nodded. Yeah. His thumb brushed over my knuckle once, the same way it had in the courtyard. Good. We stood there a little longer, not because we did not know how to say goodbye, but because neither of us wanted to rush the first honest one. And when he finally walked away, he looked back once from the sidewalk. I did not pretend not to be watching. I lifted my hand. He smiled like that was enough. Maybe that was what changed everything in the end. Not one perfect confession. Not one dramatic moment. Just two people who had gotten very good at acting normal finally choosing to stop. Mason and I did not become fearless overnight. We still got awkward. We still overthought things. I still panicked sometimes when something felt too good to trust. But now, when he showed up at my apartment with coffee, he did not sit at the far end of the couch. And when our hands touched, neither of us called it practice.